Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. We are here to break down UFC Vegas 41. I'm Kyle Marley. With me is my partner in crime, Dan Levy, aka Best Fight Picks from Half the Battle. How you doing today, bro?
Doing excellent, man. Excited for this main event. It's been a lot of hoopla around the weight cut situation for Costa, but he got his way. So now he's going to fight at a weight class where he didn't have to cut 20 pounds. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. And Vittori always brings it. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for the main event. I feel like this is like a main event pay-per-view worthy type fight, so I'm really looking forward to that one. The rest of the card is okay, but I kind of like this week for DraftKings. And again, we got 100K up top, which I always love to see. I've never won it, but one of these days I plan on taking that thing down. Hopefully it's this weekend. But let's get right into this. First fight of the night, we got a newcomer. I'm not even sure how to say this name. I think it's Zviad Lazishvili. He's coming in as a favorite. He's short notice against Jonathan Martinez at plus 118. He looks pretty good. He actually opened around minus 200, which I was pretty surprised to see. But after watching him, I kind of agree with him being favored. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I mean, word on the street is this guy is like the new Merab. But if you remember, Merab actually had to lose his first two UFC fights before he got, accustomed to the weight class. And he lost to like an old ass dude in Frankie Saenz. Even though I thought he won that fight, the fact that you couldn't make it convincing enough with these judges, the reason I'm bringing that up is because even though I think Lazishvili, whatever his name is, the Georgian, is going to go farther than Jonathan Martinez, I think he's got rankings potential. It's just that UFC debut, the price like this, that's what I'm concerned about. But still, give me the Georgian to rack up takedowns and win this fight anyways.
Yeah, I feel that. I don't know how I feel about him in general, but I think this is a good matchup for him to work his skill set, which is through the ground. My worry with him, though, is the opponent record of all these guys. It was 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, like everyone except for his last two fights. And he had a 4-year break in between there. So I just don't know much about this guy. When I was watching some of these fights, it looked like it was taking place in like an elementary school gymnasium, like school was still in session too. It was like kids are walking by. it was kind of ridiculous. So I don't know how good he is, but he looked pretty decent against low level competition, and his path to victory here is going to be through the ground, which we like on DraftKings. I think he can score well in a decision, assuming that he is going out there getting takedowns each round, spending a lot of time in top control. But I think he can get a finish as well. We have seen a finish and the curtain jerker in the last 5 fight cards in a row. I'm going to take this, however you say his name, the Georgian, to make that 6 in a row here. So he is my preferred play on DraftKings. I think Martinez is the better striker here. I just don't know if he can keep the fight on the feet. And I think for him to score high enough for me to feel good about him on the optimal lineup, I think he needs a knockout. So I'm just not too interested in Martinez here. The line has tightened up quite a bit, so people are backing him at the betting window anyways. I just don't think I'll have any exposure to him on DraftKings, and I'll be hoping that the grappler can get it done. Next fight of the night, we got Livia Souza minus 126 against Randa Marcos plus 108. How do you see this one going now?
I have no idea because, I mean, like, Randa Marcos is just so unpredictable. Sometimes she'll go out there and run through Angela Hill, beat Carla Esparza, and then other times she'll get finished in the first round by Courtney Casey. Other times she'll be dominating someone and, then throw an illegal knee. So it's just, I don't know. She's the definition of a 500 fighter, but I know at her best, she can win this fight. Livia Renata Souza is tiny for the weight class. Now, she can be aggressive at times, but man, she is tiny. I know Randa Marcos is going to be a lot bigger than her, a lot thicker than her. So, I mean, if Randa shows up, give me Randa. It's just, I don't know. I mean, if Randa wakes up on Saturday morning and got into a fight with her boyfriend or, whatever the case may be, then she might not feel like fighting that day. And if that's the case, then Livia can win. But if you give me the best Randa Marcos, I think she wins this fight. So I'll reluctantly take Marcos.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be on the other side. I just think Souza's a little bit better and more dangerous everywhere. But I think it just comes down to whoever can land the takedowns and spend time in top control. That could be either one of them. And I think that's how this fight is going to be won. And I think a lot of time needs to be spent on the ground in a dominant position for either one of them to get a high DraftKings score as well. Neither one of them score very well on DraftKings, but if they can win 2 or 3 rounds, just purely domination on the ground, then that's how they're going to score well here. I just think it's going to be a little bit too back and forth, maybe a split decision type of fight where the winner might just score 10x, and I'm not too interested in that. So this isn't a fight that I'm going to make a priority in my hand building lineups. But I'm not going to exit out of the domination station with my 150. I'll go through here and I'll put in some points for every fighter. I believe our friend Brett Apley is putting in the points for us on the domination station. We haven't got those yet, but I always like to adjust them a little bit when I go in there so I don't have the same thing everybody else does. I X out the fighters that I don't want, and I do have some fighters on this card that I'm going to be Xing out, but this is one that I'll probably want to limit to about 10-15%. And we have all sports on this domination station. We have tools for every sport as well. NBA season just started. NFL season is here as well. Best time of the year to be playing daily fantasy sports. Sign up at DFS Army if you haven't done so yet. Promo code SLEEVUS will save you 10% every month. And this is the tools I use every weekend. So I'll be in here making my 150 for this slate. And this just won't be a fight that I prioritize at all. But give me Souza to win 2 rounds and get it done on the scorecards. All right, next fight of the night. We got Jeff Molina, minus 158 versus Daniel Lacerda, plus 134. And I saw his name's also like De Silva or something like that. I've been calling him Lacerda all week. But De Silva is his name on DraftKings. I'm kind of excited for this fight. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well. I think that Molina is going to have some issues at some point because he's tiny, man. Someone is going to be able to grown man him, to big brother him. It's just about figuring out who that's going to be. But Molina's got a lot of skills. I mean, he's kind of like the mini James Krause. He's like a midget James Krause. He's got that same style. He's going to rack up a lot of volume. He's exciting to watch. Man, I'm just not sure here. So I kind of think that in a fight like this, the line should be a little bit closer. So give me the underdog via split decision.
I don't hate it. I didn't see enough from De Silva. There's only like 2 or 3 fights out there that I could even find. And he's a finisher. All of his wins come inside the distance, so there's just not a lot of time or footage out there for me to see how good he is. But he looked the part in the fights that I saw. He's dangerous with his kicks. He's dangerous in top control. I could definitely see him getting a finish in this fight, and he's the underdog. So I like some De Silva because I think if he wins, he probably gets a finish here and he scores well. He has 100+ point upside, which is something I always like to target, and even more so when they're an underdog. But kind of the same thing goes for Molina. Molina looked really good in his last fight, and he racked up, I think it was 210 total strikes in that fight. Most people in the UFC can't even strike at that high of a pace. I don't know if De Silva can keep that up for 3 rounds because we've never seen him go a full 3 rounds. So I would guess that he can't stay at that same high pace as Molina. So I gave the slight edge to Molina here, but I could see it being another split decision type thing. And either way, I kind of just like both sides of this fight. I think they both have 100+ point ceiling. Molina scored 131 in his UFC debut. That's a lock on the optimal lineup if he can do that again. I just don't exactly know how this fight's going to play out because I haven't seen enough from De Silva. But this will be one I target pretty heavily in GPPs, and I'll just stay away in cash games and play it a little safer there. All right, next one. We got Laureano Staropoli, minus 225 versus Jamie Pickett, plus 188. This is one I'm not really looking forward to for a watching purpose or a DraftKings purpose. I think it can end up on the optimal lineup, but I think we really just need a knockout from either guy for it to get there. How do you see this one playing out?
I mean, it's interesting because it's like, I don't think that Pickett really belongs in the UFC, man. I think that he's shown that already, that he's not a UFC caliber fighter. He's more of a regional guy. And Staropoli, the interesting thing is he's in the wrong weight class. You know, he's a welterweight fighting at 85. So Pickett's going to have a 9-inch reach advantage. Pickett's going to be the much larger man. So probably the early going is going to go to Pickett. It's just one of those things where if it's like 1-1 going into that 3rd round, I know that Staropoli is the tougher guy at the UFC level. He's got the heart required to fight at the UFC level. I mean, he's from Argentina, man. People from Argentina, not to generalize or anything, but he's gonna fight with a lot of spirit. He's a feisty individual. He comes to fight. So I think he digs deep and gets that third round finish. So give me Staropoli.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Agree with the breakdown, but I'm just not too interested for DraftKings. This is going to be kind of like that Souza fight where I don't really want to X them out of my player pool, but I'm cool limiting them to like 10%, something like that. But Staropoli is my preferred play of the two, just because I think he'll be the higher output fighter, just the more skilled guy all around. And like you said, Pickett's really not UFC material. I don't know that Staropoli is either. I just think he's more so than Pickett. But yeah, overall, if I was making, 5 lineups or less, then I'm not using this fight, period. The next fight is one I would be using quite a bit with just 5 lineups. We got Jai Herbert minus 184 versus Kama Worthy plus 154. I think someone goes to sleep in this fight. Who do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, look, I actually think Kama Worthy is the better fighter here. I think Kama Worthy is a very skilled guy. He's strong. It's just the big issue is he's got no chin. It's so unfortunate. Like, I actually think that he could be a top 20 guy if he had a chin. You watch his first 2 UFC fights against Devontae Smith and Luis Pena. He took those kids to school, man. So when he's not getting touched, I think that he brings a lot to the table. The only issue here is that he is going to get touched because Jai Herbert, I know he started off his UFC career 0-2, but look at who he fought. He fought Trinaldo and Moicano, man. He even dropped Trinaldo in their fight. And I just think that you hit a guy like Kama Worthy with one of those shots, and it's going to be over with shortly after. So give me Jai Herbert to get this knockout.
I agree. And I think Jai Herbert is the better all-around striker of the two, and I'm just more worried about Worthy's chin. I'm worried about them both. But I love this fight because I don't even think we're going to see a third round here. I think one of these two is going to get knocked out, leading to a high score for the winner. I'm going to pick Herbert, but you have to have underdogs in DraftKings, and that's probably going to make Worthy my preferred play of the two, just because I'm really not picking many underdogs on this card. And somebody that has a 100-point ceiling is somebody I want to target. So I might end up with more exposure to Worthy, even though I'm picking Herbert to get the knockout. But either way, target this fight heavily in GPPs. Stay away in cash games. We just don't want to trust the floors in those types of games. But these guys could end up winning somebody 100K, so that's where I would be targeting it. The next one, we got Mason Jones minus 500 taking on newcomer David Onama plus 385. I think he just took this fight like 2-3 days ago, something like that. But in my opinion, it's a better fight than the previous fight with Mason Jones, and I think Onama has a better chance than Patrick did. How do you see this one going down?
I agree. You've heard me talk about African fighters before, and again, not to generalize, but for the most part, dudes from Africa are built different, man. And this kid's from Uganda. He's never lost a fight before, pro or amateur. He went 10-0 as an am. He went 8-0 as a pro. So, he's 18-0 in fights, man. So it's respectable. Trains with James Krause. Comes out of a good gym. So, I think he's going to come to fight. It's just that Mason Jones is a serious prospect. Mason Jones is battle tested. Mason Jones had that unbelievable fight with Mike Davis. And then he destroyed Alan Patrick. You can call it a no contest all you want, but that was a TKO. And as far as I'm concerned, he's 2-1 in the UFC because he beat Patrick the first time. And then if you want to talk street rules, Patrick backed out the fight the second time. So that makes him 2-1. He's about to be 3-1 here Saturday night. So I think David Onama is going to put up a fight. But give me Mason Jones to get it done and just slightly be ahead of the game than Onama in this spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Onama goes completely overlooked on DraftKings, though, and I think he does have a knockout shot here. So I'm okay going slightly over the field in case that happens because you're really not competing with much of the field. And then also a good portion of the field will die off with Mason Jones lineups. But I do think he has to get the knockout to win this fight. I just don't see him beating Mason Jones in a decision. We got a question here. Is Jones worth the 9,500? If so, can he stack it for DraftKings? I wouldn't stack this because the main event's 5 rounds. I would rather just stack that one in cash games. But we have 14 fights on the card, so I just wouldn't be stacking at all in GPPs. You're choosing one or the other in this one, and I don't think you have to get to Jones because he's 9,500, and I don't know how likely he is to score the most on the card. He is minus 150 inside the distance, though, so I think that does make him worth it if you can afford it. But to me, it just comes down to what underdogs you like. Can you afford that salary or not? If you can't, then just go down to another favorite you like, because I think there's a lot of favorites who can score 100-plus points on this fight card. But I think for cash games, you want to try to get Mason Jones in there. He's the biggest favorite on the card. I think he is the better fighter everywhere. I think he can put up a pace that Onama can't match. And I think if the striking's not going well for him early, he can fall back on his wrestling and win the fight there as well. So I'm going to take Jones to get this job done. I think he wins all 3 rounds if he doesn't get a finish. And I'm going to have more Mason Jones lineups of the two, but if we're comparing me to the field, I might have a little bit more exposure to Onama than I would against with Jones over the field. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight. I think it'll be a good one. Glad to see Mason Jones back in there. All right, next one we got Tabitha Ricci minus 240 versus Maria de Oliveira Neta plus 198. Break this one down for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that De Oliveira got signed to the UFC. I mean, if you saw her Contender Series fight against Marina Rodriguez, I mean, we talk about tapping a strike. She was standing up and she said no more. And at the UFC level, I mean, you see these guys like Max Roshkov, and I mean, she pulled a Roshkov basically just, you know, before it got to go to the corners. So I'm surprised she's even in the UFC. Now, she does have some skills standing. She's actually probably better standing than Ricci. It's just that at the end of the day, when both fighters are tired and it comes down to who wants it more, I mean, Ricci is a dog, man. I mean, you saw that UFC debut, man. I mean, she went in there. She was completely outmatched, and she fought her heart out. And she's also got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so this hits the mat. You can expect an arm bar. You can expect an arm triangle. You can expect a guillotine, whatever the case may be. So give me Ricci to submit De Oliveira.
I agree. I think Oliveira is the better striker of the two. And if she can stuff takedowns here, then she probably wins the fight, and she can maybe get a knockout as well. But she probably has to get the knockout to end up on the optimal on DraftKings, because I don't know that she's going to be stuffing takedowns. She'll probably spend some time on her back anyways, if she's even able to win a decision. But she struggles with takedown defense. She struggles off her back, and that's where Ricci excels. So that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Ricci goes for takedowns early and often, gets them, and I do think she locks up a submission here. Plus 140 or so inside the distance. I think that's a pretty good line. And I also think she could go a little bit overlooked on this card. So I'm okay going a little bit overweight to Ricci. I wouldn't feel good betting that minus 240, but I think she's a good DraftKings play because her most optimal path to victory should score well on DraftKings. And then Oliveira, I'm really not too interested in her, but if I do go over the field on Ricci, I might have a couple shares just as a hedge, really, if I'm making 150. But she won't be touching my hand builds, I don't think. All right, next one, we got a coin flip, it looks like. Gregory Rodriguez minus 108 versus Jun Young Park minus 108 as well. I'm excited for this one. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it being a pick 'em now. Earlier, I think that there was a lot of value on Rodriguez with the original line because I do view this closer to 50-50. It's just that Jun Young Park, he's definitely skilled, man. I mean, you can't take anything away from him, but you kind of got to analyze the exact matchups that he's had. I mean, he went in there with John Phillips, where if you haven't figured out how to beat John Phillips yet, I mean, there's a serious issue. And then the next fight, I mean, look, he was the first guy to defeat Tafon, which is very impressive. It's just that Tafon also had to pay his dues. Tafon's had less than, 6 pro fights, 7 pro fights. So these guys are either have no ground games or they're just kids in the game. Whereas Rodriguez has paid his dues. I mean, he's the LFA champion. He beat Dusko Todorovic, which was a big win. So give me Rodriguez, man. I mean, he's a big physical guy. He hits like a truck. He knows what the ups and downs are like in this sport. He's good everywhere the fight goes. So I think I just see this being 2 bulls locking horns, and give me the underdog.
Yeah, I actually favor Rodriguez in this fight. I think he's the better fighter everywhere, really. I think he is the better striker, the more dangerous striker. I think he's the more dangerous grappler. And I don't know that Park can just go out there and land takedowns at will on this guy, or if he even wants to, because he's not going to be as safe on the ground as he would be against those other guys. my biggest worry with Rodriguez is his durability. I don't know that Park's the guy to really test that, but I didn't think that Jamal Williams guy, whatever it was on Contender Series, would really test it either. So that's my worry here. But I like Rodriguez in this one, and since we're getting him as an underdog on DraftKings, he'll be one of my favorite underdogs to click on with my hand builds because I think he can get a knockout. I think he can get a submission, score well that way. But I would worry about his score in a decision win. I think he can win a decision as well. I just don't know that he's even going to get the 10x at his 8K salary. So that's kind of keeping me away from a core play. But with my hand builds, I'll probably be clicking on him a good amount. And then I wouldn't be shocked if I saw about 40 to 50% of him in my 150 as well. So I do like the Rodriguez side quite a bit. And then Park, I'm not against Park. I think he can score well here. He has a decent pace on the feet. He can land takedowns, do well on the ground. It's just that I like all the other favorites on this card more, so I probably won't get to any Park. With my hand builds, I definitely won't be touching them, but I also won't X them out of the domination station because I want some hedges if I got close to 50% on Rodriguez. But give me Rodriguez, and I think he can win anyway. But yeah, I am looking forward to that card, or that fight. All right, next one we got Ngu Maranu versus Ike Villanueva. Nikolai minus 235 versus Villanueva's plus 194. I think it's another one where someone probably goes to sleep or at least gets a referee stoppage. How do you think it goes down?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a lower level fight at light heavyweight. I'll just take Nikolai, man, because he's got more options in terms of if he takes Ike down, I just don't see Ike getting back up. Ike is he's a bar brawler, man. I mean, don't mess with him at the bar, but at the UFC level, these guys are going to have answers for that brawling style. And Nikolai might need a lot of work, but I think he's got enough skills to get this one done, especially on the mat. So give me Nikolai.
Yeah, I think Nikolai's better everywhere. I'm not going to pick any Ike over any UFC fighter, to be honest with you. He beat the one guy who I would pick him to beat, and now that guy's gone, so that makes Ike the worst guy in this division, in my opinion. So minus 235 on this Nikolai does not look pretty, but when you're fighting Ike Villanueva, I think it makes sense. We have a minus 270 fight doesn't go to a decision here, and I doubt we see the third round, so give me Ngu Maranu to get the finish, probably a TKO at some point, but he can get a submission as well. But I do like him quite a bit on DraftKings. If Villanueva is to win this fight, I think it's got to be a knockout. And if that's in round one, he's on the nuts. So I won't X him out of my player pool. I'm cool with some hedges on Villanueva just because he has that high ceiling, but I don't feel good about him getting that knockout at all. I'd rather much be overweight on the Nikolai side. All right, the next one is my least favorite fight to target on DraftKings. We got Francisco Trinaldo minus 130 versus Dwight Grant plus 110. I think this will be the slowest paced fight on the entire card, which is kind of making me want to X both sides out on DraftKings. But how do you see it going down?
I'm a big fan of Trinaldo. I mean, I hope that when I'm 43, I can look half as good as he looks. And dude's just a badass. He's got 16 UFC wins. I mean, he's just a guy that – he's been here for the long haul, man. He knows what a 7-fight win streak is like in the UFC. He's basically done everything there is to do except maybe hit the top 10, right? So I'm a fan. Dwight Grant, the thing that he's got going for him is he's got disgusting power. I mean, look, it's going to be low output. It's going to be boring, but when this guy connects on the chin, bodies tend to hit the floor. So that's what you got to look out for with Dwight Grant. I mean, if he is to win this fight, I think he's got a better chance of knocking out Trinaldo than he does actually winning the decision here. Trinaldo's the much better fighter. It's just that Trinaldo's 43. So at what point is it all going to fall to shit? That's what you got to look out for, man, because, father time's a real thing. And this guy's been defying logic over and over again. At some point, that's just not going to be the case. Is it Saturday night where finally he takes that first, that first canvas nap? I hope not because I got anything against Dwight Grant, but just because I'm a big fan of Trinaldo. So give me Trinaldo. I mean, he's the better fighter here. It's just at some point, age is going to catch up to him. So, I mean, I'd recommend having a tiny bit of Dwight Grant just in case Saturday night is the time that happens.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And that's the way that Dwight Grant would score well. I think he can win a decision, though, just because it's just too non-active strikers going at it, and it's not hard to land more than 39 or 30 or 31 or 25 or 28 strikes. So I just think it's a split decision either way if we're going to the scorecards, and it probably is a striking match where they're landing like 2 to 3 strikes per minute. I'm just probably going to fade this because I don't want to trust a 43-year-old Trinaldo at this point. Yeah, at some point, the wheels are going to fall off, and he's already not putting up scores on DraftKings, even if he does get the win. And then Dwight Grant, he's just so low output. The only thing that makes me like him is that he's the underdog. I just think this is a coin flip fight, so give me the underdog in that situation. I'll take Grant to win a split decision, but if this goes to a decision, I'd be surprised to see either one of them get like 60 points, and that's just not going to cut it. So I'm Xing them out of my lineups and hoping that knockout doesn't happen. If it does in round 1, then I'll probably stop watching these damn fights because I'll be dead on DraftKings. Next one, we got Seungwoo Choi minus 295 versus Alex Caceres plus 240. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, it's a good fight for Choi, man. I mean, Choi's a dude that's been paying his dues. I mean, your first 2 UFC fights, you fight Evloev and Gavin Tucker. I mean, that's got to count for something. So now he's reaping the rewards of paying those dues early on in his career, and he's getting these favorable matchups. So Bruce Leroy is performing better than he's ever performed. Had this been early on in Choi's career, then maybe it'd be kind of vet lesson time, but I think Choi has paid his dues to where he can come out here and just be more physical and show that he's the guy that has the top 15 potential here. So give me Choi to get it done.
I agree, but on DraftKings, this is another fight. I'm kind of just looking to X both sides out. I think Caceres needs a submission to score well on DraftKings, and Choi needs a knockout. And then we have this fight is projected to go the distance at minus 176. If this goes the distance, I don't see either one of them scoring well, but I would assume that Choi gets the win, and I just don't think he has a chance of getting 10x in a decision win here. But yeah, I'll take Choi to get the job done. Probably wins all 3 rounds on the scorecards. Next one, we got Jessica Rose Clark minus 174 versus Jocelyn Edwards plus 146. I almost bet Rose Clark earlier in the week, and then the line just kind of got away from me. But she's coming off of her best performance ever, where she just dismantled Alpar, and then seeing Alpar have a win over Edwards, it just made it real hard to want to pick Edwards in this fight. But how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the MMA math. To me, it's more so about the fact that when Edwards gets taken down, she tends not to get back up. So, I mean, if Rose Clark, she has been in the USA. She's been training all facets of her game. So, I mean, she's got a chance to get this to the mat and have a lot of success there. The thing I'm worried about is on the feet. I would actually say that Jocelyn Edwards can have a lot of success standing, man. She's pretty decent there. So on the feet, I see it being that split decision type fight, but on the mat is where I can see Rose Clark kind of pull away. So give me Rose Clark, but I think it's closer than people think.
Yeah, I would agree. Rose Clark's best chance for the win is going to be through the mat, and that's how she's going to score the most on DraftKings as well. If this does go to a split decision, striking match type thing, not only is Jessica Rose Clark not going to score well on DraftKings, but she might not win the fight, and that would put Edwards in play for DraftKings as well, because I think she could put up a decent volume on the feet, and she could get a knockout as well. So I don't hate some Edwards exposure here, but I'm going to be on the Rose Clark side. I just think she should fight smart here. I like the way she looked in her last fight, and she has a clear path to victory if she does fight smart. So give me Clark to get this fight done through the ground, and I think she can put up a good DraftKings play. I don't know exactly how much exposure I'll be getting to her because I like so many favorites on this card. But if I was her coach and I knew that she was going to go in there with a grappling heavy game plan, then I would want to be over the field on her. Edwards, I'll probably stay somewhere around field weight on Edwards, just so I'm not burned either way, because I do think she is live in this fight. I don't trust Clark to fight the most optimal game plan, and she could give Edwards the win just by doing that. Next fight, got the co-main event, Grant Dawson, minus 390 versus Rick Glenn, plus 310. Dawson's looked amazing in his UFC fights so far, but he's got a tough veteran here, and that's a high price tag to be paying for him, minus 390, and he's also 9,300 on DraftKings. How do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of respect for Rick Glenn. He's a dude that's also just been paying his dues for a long ass time. I mean, I remember watching him in PFL before it was called PFL, back when they were called World Series of Fighting. I mean, Rick Glenn is a dude that I got nothing but respect for. The only issue is, I mean, has Rick Glenn learned how to wrestle yet? Because the issue is that Grant Dawson is probably going to take him down over and over again. And that's what you want on DraftKings. A lot of top control. And Grant Dawson's been getting better, man. I mean, only man in UFC history to beat Leo Santos. And the way he did it was pretty damn impressive. So I expect big things from Dawson, man. He's so dominant in that one area. Now, granted, on the feet, you got to give an edge to Rick Glenn for sure. And Rick Glenn's got that veteran experience. You've also seen Grant Dawson be knocked out via the Travis Brown elbows when he's shooting for a takedown. So could that happen here? Possibly, maybe a guillotine or something like that. But I see Grant Dawson just grinding out the decision with takedowns and holding that top control. And, you know, maybe kind of a boring fight. So, but boring that could score high. So give me Grant Dawson to win this fight.
Yeah, I agree. And I just love the pace that Dawson fights at. I think his big edge is going to be through the mat here. I think he can get a submission there or score well in a decision just by racking up takedowns, having 10-plus minutes of top control time. He's never had less than 4 minutes of control time in a fight, and he's finished 3 of his 5 fights. So that's impressive. And he's also had, I believe, over 8 minutes of control time in 3 of those 5 fights. He's just a good DraftKings player, and if it is stuck on the feet, man, I'd say Glenn's the better striker, but Dawson's kind of got that Marab striking where, like, it's not pretty, but just the pace alone can beat a lot of guys because he's always working, and that's what I like to see. I love that on DraftKings. The only issue is going to be affording him. Do I go him? Do I go Mason Jones? Can I afford either one of them? I don't exactly know yet. I haven't been building lineups yet. I'll be doing that either tonight or some point tomorrow, but I think Dawson will be somebody who around field weight or over, and then Glenn might be a full fade for me. I just don't really see him scoring well in this fight. But I faded him in his last fight, and I regretted it instantly. So maybe that could happen again. All right. Now we got the main event that everyone's been looking for. This fight is now at 205 pounds. We got Marvin Vettori minus 184 versus Paulo Costa plus 154. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, not having to cut those 20, 30 pounds. I mean, the fight moved up 20 pounds. That's huge for Costa, especially if he was having a weight cutting issue or whatever. So now he's going to be fully fed. He's going to be hydrated. So I'm hoping we see the Costa that fought Yoel Romero. I mean, if he's anything like that guy, then, I mean, give me the plus 170, the plus 155. I mean, if he's anything like that guy, I think that guy is a beast. It's just that, did Izzy do a number on this guy? Did Izzy break this guy? Will this guy come back the same after the Izzy fight? Because, I mean, I know what to expect from Marvin. He's got, interestingly enough, his cardio used to be in question, but he's been digging deep in these fights, and he's been winning these later rounds. So he's been getting better about that. Marvin can put up numbers. Marvin can go hard. Marvin doesn't usually get the finish, though. That's the only thing. But then on the other side of things, bringing up that Yoel Romero fight, we got to also remember that Paulo Costa gassed really badly in that 3rd round. But he prevented himself from being held down against an Olympic wrestler. So that's impressive. I just kind of see it being closer like minus 150 Vittori as opposed to like minus 190 Vittori. So listen, if Paulo Costa is a broken man, if he's not the same, then Vittori is a very sharp play here. But that's all speculative. That's all narratives. And I just don't know if he is or isn't. So based off the number, you know, plus 170, give me Costa here, and hopefully he can show up some version, some form of his old self.
Yeah, with 25 minutes to work with, it's just going to be hard for me not to click on this fight, especially with my hand builds, and I'll probably be like 75% or more with my 150 as well. Just a great fight to target either way. I think it's become a knockout or bust fight for Costa. I worry about him going 5 rounds for sure. I think he will be the better striker in rounds 1 and 2 possibly, but it's still going to be the knockout that is his big edge here, just the power, and then that extra weight should help him with the knockout chances. I think it hurts him in a decision, though. Like, why can't he make the weight? Is he not in good enough cardio shape to drop the LBs? Is he injured? Can he not get down to weight because there's something stopping him from being able to do something? I don't really know. And I just think he's kind of a head case a little bit. I think Vittori can hang in the striking as well. And his big edge is going to be with the takedowns. If he can get takedowns early in this fight, I think Costa's in trouble. And it's going to be a lot harder to get a 20-plus pound heavier Vittori off you than it would at 185 as well. I just think Vittori's the better all-around fighter, the safer game plan. If he can get it through the ground, I'm really not too worried about Costa off his back. And I also trust Vittori's cardio quite a bit more. I think they're both on some solid supplements. But give me Vittori to win this fight. I think he can win, 4 of the 5 rounds, if not get a late finish, just because of this whole weight thing. I picked a unanimous decision with my original pick, but I'm kind of thinking Vittori can finish him in round 4 or round 5, something like that. If he is going that late into the fight, I would think that he's getting some takedowns, and I could see Costa just quitting if he's spending too much time on his back. So give me Vittori. He'll be one of my favorite picks on the card, but Costa has 110-plus upside as a cheap underdog, so there's no way I would be fading Costa. If you're making multiple lineups on this fight, you target both sides of it, but for me, it's going to be more so on the Vittori side, and I can't wait for this fight. Hopefully, it's as fun as it looks on paper. All right, and then lastly, every card we do a kill shot, somebody who we think will end up on the 100K lineup who maybe isn't too owned. You got anybody in mind?
I got 3 people in mind. So Paulo Costa, I know Marvin's going to be on everyone's lineup, especially with this weight miss, and this could be a total not just a weight miss, but a total miss in terms of picking Costa, because he could gas out and things could not go his way. But man, before that Izzy fight, I saw a top 3 guy. I saw a beast. I saw a force to be reckoned with. I saw a guy that was out there dropping Yoel Romero. So if he's anything like that guy, give me him for a kill shot. Also, Jay Herbert, I think he's going to be a first round knockout. And then Laureano Staropoli, I think is going to be underweight. And I think that he's a guy that is fighting someone that doesn't belong. So yeah, give me those 3.
I would say ownership-wise, Staropoli would be the one that you would compete with less of the field if he gets it done. So I would say that's a real kill shot right there. If Staropoli goes out there and gets an early knockout, I think you got a good shot maybe winning that 100K. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with this newcomer, this Lazishvili. I'm not really confident that he gets the win, but I'm pretty confident that if he wins, he's going to score well, and the most of that fight's going to happen through the ground, assuming he gets his hand raised. So Lazishvili will be my kill shot, and I'll take him to be the 6th fight card in a row to get a finish in that curtain jerker. But yeah, that'll be it for this card. I hope that we smash it. Hope to see some DFS Army helmets at the top of the leaderboards. Good luck to you, Dan, and good luck to everybody listening. We hope to see you guys next week. We got some awesome pay-per-views coming up that I cannot wait for. But yeah, good luck, everybody. See you next time.